Hey everybody, this is Anthony Hannigan. Welcome back to musicmoose.org. I am holding this mandolin in my hand and I'm going to explain to some of the beginners out there the general makeup of the mandolin and some of the maintenance issues that you will acquire in the field and run up against and how you can do some of the stuff yourself. So basically where I left off, I was explaining the fretboard here, and the fretboard is radiused, meaning if you think of a violin, if you get your hands on a violin, look at a violin, there's some curvature to it, which I find a bit easier to actually play when you're going to play at various speeds. The fingers just naturally fall into that place. There's kind of a curvature that goes on. The one thing that you want to make sure of, if you do have a radius fretboard, you're going to need a radiused bridge as well, just like a violin. So everything kind of lines up in that radius round format. Now, going up, there's an inspection that one can do on the strings in themselves, and I had these frets done by Mr. Randy Wood down in Georgia. As a matter of fact, he reconstructed this whole entire thing. But if you look, if you were to pull your strings back, you'll notice that there's little indentations, and it's going to be so fine to see, but there's little indentations where the strings are pushed down constantly. Now, this mandolin gets tons of use per day, so I'm not surprised to see them in there. I go through frets probably at least one fret dressing every like 3 to 4 months, and then new frets every year. Just a general upkeep, like getting the oil changed in the car to make sure that it's continually running. The one thing, if you're playing a lot, you don't want to get to a gig or something and have to pull it out and then realize, wow, I've got that one string that's buzzing and it's driving me crazy. Some symptoms of bad frets would be string buzzing. Sometimes they come loose from the fretboard. They might surface. I am not experienced myself of tapping them back in. Now I know Dave and I have played around with my banjo frets before, and it's not a pretty sight when you see somebody with a little mallet pounding on your instrument neck, because there's a lot of other things. The neck itself is, the only thing holding this together is glue. There's a couple of screws in the fretboard too. They mask them underneath these dots right here, and I've seen them off on the original fretboard on this. It was kind of, I couldn't believe it when I actually did see it. We have a nut up here, which, these are available anywhere. First Quality has them, Gruen's has them. Any music store that's got instrument parts, repairs guitars, you can usually get a nut. So sometimes when people have action issues, they'll work on shaping that. This is also radiused as well, so it matches the radius fretboard, which matches the radius bridge. Now, one key thing that people overlook is their tuning mechanisms. And this mandolin right here has had the same tuners on it for years and years and years, and it's due for a new set anytime soon. These have a couple of variable adjustment points. In the ends, there are screws. These screws, just like any other screws, will come loose after a period of time and after being exposed to various weather conditions. Behind that as well, there is other screws that are adjusted by a Phillips head. Now you have to look at your mandolin. Some of them are built right in and they're locked, but over a period of time and prolonged use, they're just like any other mechanical part, they will go bad probably. On the newer mandolins, you're not going to have to worry about it for a long, long time. But like I said, after a long period of use and changing strings, there is wear and tear on them as well. So what I like to do, I have a little screwdriver for the actual buttons here, but I'll make sure that they're tight, and I'll do this like every 3 months, and then I'll take a Phillips screwdriver and I'll go through and I'll make sure these are all tight too. Just give them a nice, just so they're snug, so they're not slipping, because it can cause some unbearable problems if you're not prepared for it. Also, on this particular mandolin, I have a microphone, which is a Shirtler, and you can read all about that on the Hickory Project website, or you can go to shirtlerusa.com. It's the closest thing that I have found to reproducing the acoustic sounds. When I'm in a live setting, I usually use a stage mic and this as well, and so I don't have to kind of fluctuate between the way that I pick and stuff. Here in the video studio, there's no background noise, so it's very simple to be heard. But in a live format, for those musicians out there suffering from having to play louder, losing their dexterity, this could be a big value add to an instrument. Now, our dear friend Soupy, who is one of our regular posters, he wanted to get into some other stuff and some enhancers on it. The first thing that you are going to need, and I highly recommend, is a strap. All the lessons that I've done just for comfort have been sitting down This strap right here is made by Lynn Dudenbostel's daughter down in Tennessee. I like it because it's round, it doesn't sweat the leather off onto any kind of fabric that you're wearing, and it's adjustable. So if anybody else wants to play it or I need it for something else, you know, it's got many adjustments here. I like wearing it low, so I got the large size so I can keep it down real low when I play. But I definitely advise practice standing up too as much as you do sitting down, because when it comes into a live situation, you're not going to see too many chairs on a stage. But the ring just goes around the F-hole, or the scroll here. Some people will choose to tie it underneath the strings right here, or tie it up on the headstocks. It varies. And just the loop down here goes on the end pin. And this, in transport, I just tuck into the F-hole, and it's good to go. I never even take it off, so whenever I play, I just plug and play and I'm ready to go. Now the one key element in maintenance is right here. We have a truss rod underneath this little cover, and it's you can get an open box wrench, and usually, depending on the season, you'll get buzzes and stuff, and there's to be a certain bow in the neck, and hopefully Dave will cover this in some of his banjo lessons too, because I can't quite explain it. There's many luthiers. If you contact me, I can set you up with a bunch of different luthiers, have a various ways. Some of them are double adjustable to go both ways, but what it does is put tension on the neck. You want sort of a bow so that there's a vibration, and that's where the sound comes from. I never, or very rarely, touch that. Down here is where I do a lot of maintenance on the bridge itself. I'll raise it when it's really, really dry, and when summertime rolls around, there's more humidity in the air, I will lower it. I have a very, very low action. Right now it's on the verge of buzzing, but that's okay for right now. I don't have any recording projects, but so far as rehearsing and playing, it kind of go by it so fast. But there is no fear in adjusting your bridge. You should be able to do that at any time, especially if you're changing strings, you want to experiment with different tones. The higher that it is, the higher action you have, the louder your instrument is going to be. The lower that it is, the easier it's going to be, but you're going to sacrifice some volume. This was set up by Randy Wood, and I'll tell you what, his group of guys that he has down there in Georgia are just top notch, and it's a fantastic playing instrument. And we're going to get into the actual setup of it right after this. Thanks for joining us here at Music Moves.